All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to explore one of the biggest shifts in the entire history of art. I'm talking about the moment the ancient Greeks went from just showing the world to trying to perfect it. That created a whole new idea of beauty, one we're still talking about thousands of years later.
So let's start with a really big question, something people have been chewing on for centuries. How do you actually create something that is beautiful? I mean, what does that even mean?
Is it just about being a human photocopier, making a perfect copy of what's right in front of you? Or is there something else to it? Well, the ancient Greeks believed there was, and their answer completely changed the game. For them, beauty wasn't just about what the hand could do, it was about what the mind could figure out.
And that brings us to this idea of a new realm of beauty. See, around 420 BC, something totally new started happening. Artists weren't just seen as skilled workers anymore, hired to carve a statue for a temple. They started seeing themselves as masters, and they began chasing after beauty and skill just for the sake of it.
This is what the great art historian E.H. Gombrich called the realm of beauty. It's this huge shift from art having a job to do, like telling a religious story, to art being about the pure intellectual challenge, the absolute joy of making something incredible.
So where can we actually see this new way of thinking pop up? Well, you can see it in the biggest, most obvious things they left behind, their amazing buildings and their sculptures. And you can literally watch this idea of refinement evolve right in their architecture. I mean, look at the columns. They start with the Doric style. It's strong, simple, gets the job done. Then they move on to the Ionic, which is a bit more slender, more elegant. And finally, you get the Corinthian, which is just unbelievably decorative and complex. You can feel their confidence growing with each new style.
And when you put them side by side, the difference is just so clear. On the one hand, you've got the sheer power of the Doric style. But then you look at the Ionic, used on the famous Erechtheion, and it just feels so much more graceful, almost light. It's a move away from just being functional towards something truly elegant.
But hey, this wasn't just about buildings. This same obsession with perfection was happening in sculpture too. Artists weren't just carving stone figures anymore. They were trying to do the impossible. They were trying to make stone look like it was alive.
And you can really see this come to life with a master sculptor like Praxiteles. He was one of the geniuses who figured out how to make his sculptures look totally natural and relaxed. His figures aren't stiff at all. They have this incredible poise, this harmony that makes them feel like they could just breathe and walk away.
Now, this whole mission to bring stone to life actually split into two really fascinating directions. And these two paths pretty much define what the Greeks achieved in sculpture, creating the perfect, ideal human form, and then capturing the unique soul of a real person. Okay, so this is a really key distinction. Idealization wasn't like modern photo retouching. It was about using their deep knowledge of how the human body works to build the perfect version of a type, like the perfect athlete or the perfect goddess. But portraiture, which came later, was the total opposite. The goal there was to capture all the unique, maybe even imperfect things that made one specific person who they were. So idealization was really an intellectual puzzle for these artists. It wasn't about hiding flaws. It was about using what they knew about anatomy to make the old, traditional figures feel fresh and alive. They were aiming for this perfect sweet spot between a general type and a believable individual. And a perfect example of this is the famous Apollo Belvedere. That's not a portrait of some guy. It's the very idea of a god carved in stone.
But then, towards the end of the 4th century, things started to shift again. A new challenge came up. Artists started asking themselves, okay, we can create the ideal, but can we capture the actual soul of a real person?
And the rock star of this new movement was a guy named Lysippus. He was the official sculptor for Alexander the Great, of all people. And he was legendary for making portraits that didn't just look like someone, they felt like them. He'd turn his subjects' heads, have them gazing upwards. You could look at his sculpture of Alexander and get a real sense of the man's personality, his ambition, his character. It was revolutionary.
This new focus on personality and emotion really set the stage for the final, and most dramatic, act in Greek art. After Alexander the Great's conquest spread Greek culture all over the place, art entered a new phase we now call the Hellenistic period.
And in this era, everything got turned up to 11. Greek art suddenly had this huge, new, diverse audience, and it became much more theatrical, more intense, and way more emotional. The goal wasn't quiet perfection anymore. It was to grab you by the collar and make you feel something, big time.
Yep. The Hellenistic style is all about impact. I mean, just look at the classic example here, the Laocoon group. You can just feel the pain, the struggle, the sheer terror. It's an absolute masterpiece of technical skill, but it's designed to punch you right in the gut. We're a long way from quiet, ideal beauty here. This is all about the raw drama of being human.
And during this explosion of new ideas, artists even started to try out totally new subjects like painting landscapes. They wanted to capture the beauty of the world itself, which is pretty amazing when you remember they hadn't yet worked out the mathematical rules of perspective. That wouldn't happen for another 1,000 years or so.
So, let's bring this all home. After this whole incredible journey, what's the big takeaway? What's the lasting legacy of what these Greek artists achieved?
This is it. If you remember one thing, remember this. Greek art, from the simplest column to the most complex sculpture, was always a product of the mind. It was about using knowledge, using rules, using reason to chase down an idea of perfection.
So, in a nutshell, here's what they pulled off. First, they broke free from the stiff old rules of art. Then they figured out how to make things look convincingly real. And then, and this is the most important part, they used their brains to improve and perfect what they saw. And in doing that, they invented this whole new realm of beauty.
And that leaves us with one final thing to think about. Does that idea click with you? The idea that the most profound beauty in art isn't just a perfect copy of the world, but something that's been thought through, constructed, and created with knowledge and intellect. It's a really powerful concept, and it's one of the greatest gifts the Greeks gave us.